It's a pretty big topic I'm going to discuss. With the research, if you're going to try to find the truth in the world and peel back the layers of what's really going on, you're going to eventually come across NASA and the space program. And what you're going to find is that NASA was created in the mid-50s to create the illusion of going into outer space and the possibility of going to the moon, and have carried on that propaganda campaign for 70 years now. And it's really kind of mind-blowing, because you're going to start off, let's say you start off and look into the moon landing, and you can pick that apart in a couple hours. It's such an easy thing to prove that no one ever went to the moon. It's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go in the details. I'm just going in the overall thought process of how to come to terms with what space really is and what our understanding really is. Let's go to modern times. They're still doing these ridiculous things, like SpaceX is now landing 212 foot tall, 12 foot wide rocket, which is basically like landing a pencil, try to balance a pencil on a tabletop. Now try to take that same pencil and have it fall out of the sky at many thousands of miles an hour. I'm talking, it was going, I believe it was 17,000 miles an hour before it comes back down. And it comes down and it lands on a barge in the middle of the ocean. And it's choppy waves, it's rocking back and forth. Every single time they lose the feed, and then, hey, there it is, and magically it's there. So that is ridiculous. It's impossible. But you really got to look further, because you got to really understand the implications of that. NASA does not have space probes out in the solar system taking photographs of planets. It's not happening. Voyager 1 was one of the earlier space probes to be launched in the mid-70s, and currently they say it's still out there. They're telling children in school these days that this Voyager 1 space probe is traveling at 38,000 miles an hour, and it's many billions with a B miles away. It's breached through our solar system, and they're talking about solar wind and all of this nonsense. And keep in mind that this Voyager 1 is working off this nuclear powered battery that's never gone dead, through the hardest of any known possible environment. It traveled through the alleged asteroid belt for 8 years without hitting anything. It has a memory system, which is a recorded, it's like a cassette tape. It's like an 8-track. It's like a metallic tape, because remember, this is 1974. It's a metallic tape, just like a old 8-track, and it has to erase and re-record to give back any information. And I believe that the memory is about 70 kilobits, which is about 1 JPEG photo. Yet it's sending back these high definition pictures of all of the planets and their moons and all of this. So what I'm saying is, it's not real, and it's provably not real if you take the time to investigate that. And with that, again, you have to understand the implications of that, because the moon landing is not real, space probes are not real. That means that we have no photographs of any planets or any moons as physical objects. You're going to look on NASA or any of these government sites, or, that's obviously been disseminated into every university and research and these highly accredited organizations and institutions are using these photographs that are faked. They're all computer generated images. You can look at them and see they're fake. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, and again, remember the probes that are supposedly taking these pictures have very low resolution or no capability of even getting that information back. They're saying that the information's coming back at 1/100000th of 1/10000000th of 1 watt. And NASA has this deep space receiver that they're the only one in the world that can pick it up. You know, if you ever read the book The Emperor Has No Clothes, that's what we're dealing with. So anyways, that to me really got me down the road, because it was shocking. It was shocking to make that realization that there are no photographs of the planets. So the only best they can see is from a telescope, which is pretty much what I can see from here. They maybe have a more high-powered telescope, but what you're looking at up there are luminescent bodies. They are lights in the sky. It's something that is very hard. If you're just now listening to this, you might turn it off, but I hope you don't, because it's something that is very, very important to understand, that we don't know what's out there, and what we've been presented is completely false and falsified on purpose. So that led me to another path in my journey, discovering that the Earth, the composition of the Earth, and everything we know about the Earth has been fabricated and manipulated as well. But that's another discussion. So this is about the space race. This is about our understanding of outer space. So just consider it, and really, go do your own research, take your own journey, because this is too big. Nobody can just sit here for a couple minutes and explain it and just say satellites aren't real. Satellites are not traveling over the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour, or there's these higher ones that are making a higher orbital rotation, so they have to go faster, and they're going 22,000 miles an hour. Consider how ridiculous that is. And the fact is that they're not even necessary, because NASA has their own balloon program that's been going on since the 50s, and they have these massive balloons that can carry a payload of 8,000 pounds. So they're these, I'm talking, they're the size of football stadiums, domes. They're like 400 yards, these massive helium balloons. NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world. Look it up for yourself. It's a fact. But there's a shortage on helium, and NASA consumes all the helium. And I wonder where it goes. They don't talk about their balloon program, but satellites are hanging on balloons, and they are maneuverable, and that's why they go up to 100,000+ feet of elevation. That's why we can see them, because they're not 22,000 miles away, or 250 miles up in the air. Do you really believe that you can see a satellite from 250 miles away? Think about how far that is. Think about something from wherever you live that's 250 miles away, that's the size of a car. Do you really believe that the human eye could see that, and it has no lights on it? The sun's not going to reflect off of it, and you're not going to see it. It's not true. So anyways, so the other thing about communication is there are undersea cables that connect the entire world. All of the internet, all telephones work off of ground-based relays. All the towers that you see, those are there, to relay all of the transmissions. and then through the oceans. There's a massive net of underwater cables that transfers the information. Please look it up. They say that all of the information goes through these cables, and they go through ground-based relays. So there's no point, there's no reason whatsoever for communication satellites, and your cell phone, when you make a phone call, does not go up into outer space and then zap back down. It goes to the local tower, and it is relayed around local ground-based towers that you can see, and it goes back down to the ground to the other cell phone wherever you're calling. That's what happens. The same thing with the internet. It goes through a wire, might go through a satellite dish from your house up to the local local dish, and then it relays back and forth until it wants to find wherever location it's going to, and that's the fact. So what's the point? The photographs they have of the Earth. There's not one photograph of the Earth. If they really had these satellites at 1 million miles away, like they have this live feed, you can find a satellite that is supposedly taking pictures of Earth right now, and it's just this ridiculous computer graphic. It's so phony. It's just like, again, if you look at it and you think it's real, you have to really check yourself and wake up from the dream you've been in, because it's so easily seen to be provably ridiculous. Look up, there's a website you can find, and it's through NASA, or it's through another, might be a Japanese space program, which they all know the same thing. These guys are all in cahoots. But there's a video of the moon crossing the Earth, and they put it out there like it's real, and it's just so ridiculous. Just look it up. Just say Earth, moon crossing the Earth, NASA, and look for the most official site you can find. But they're all using the same quote unquote official series of these pictures that they've taken to show the moon crossing around the Earth, and it's just come on, it's just ridiculous. So anyways, making that realization, if you really want to dive down that rabbit hole and be honest with yourself and think about how this is going to affect our children and how we've been affected, how everybody, there's a very, very few people that have the real understanding that the space program is faked, and you might know that nobody went to the moon, but people stop there, so our children right now are being taught that there's a space probe on Mars taking photographs. It's ridiculous. And they come back, my daughter comes home from school, and she says, "Dad, they just found water on Mars." And I said, no honey, they didn't. And she was shocked. She said, "What are you talking about?" She said, I saw it in class. I saw the rover on class. I said, "No, you didn't. That's not real. It's faked." And she was devastated. And my wife says, that's you really shouldn't say that. That's going to shock her. You can't tell her that the moon landing wasn't real. You can't tell her that that there's no rovers on Mars. It would shock her. Well, I look at it. I had some time thinking about it, and I think it's okay to be shocked, because we need to be shocked. Are we going to all agree to lie? Really, are we going to agree to lie to move into the future and teach all of our children absolute lie, just because the government wants you looking up and wants to keep you confused and wants to keep you thinking that the Earth is different than what it is, and thinking that there's this space probe running around, this terra firma planet that just happens to look exactly like Greenland. And if you go look up Devon Island, before the first rover went to Mars, they started a research project funded through NASA on Devon Island, and they were there. It's verifiable that they were there at least a year before the landing of the first rover. And what's hilarious about it, that it's still there. It's called the Mars Houghton Research Project. It's on Devon Island up in Greenland, up by the Arctic. And it's the exact same landscape, the same rolling hills, the same rocks, the same everything. All they do is put a green or an orange filter on it to make you think it's something different, and it's just so ridiculous. And just don't buy into it anymore. And we need to stop teaching our children lies, and we need to start really analyzing how deep the lie is, and it'll take you to some places that are going to shock the heck out of you. But I think it's important, because what's the alternative? Are we just going to live in a complete, basically an illusion? I mean, I'm not saying that we're not here. I'm saying, of course, we're here, but you have to consider that in your mind's eye, when you look up at outer space, and let's say you see that red star, that orange star, and you're like, hey, we could see Mars. Do you really, in your mind, do you think that there's a little robot up there driving around on dirt? And you have to consider how far that goes through the whole understanding of what's out there. It's a huge worldview to overcome, and the cognitive dissonance that it's so hard to overcome, especially if you're not used to this. The deeper you go and the more shocking things you find, the easier it gets, and the more empowered you're going to be by learning these things. And you might be a bit of an outcast, like I've found. I've had I think it's important to tell the truth. I think it's important to learn how to do this in a very concise way, where you're you don't want to be ridiculous about it. You don't want to be the town lunatic, is what I'm saying. But I think it's important to say it, and I think it's important to share the information. And I'm willing to put myself out there to help explain what's happening. And I'm hoping to find a connection with 10 people that can take this and share it with 10 other people, and compound what the information to get it out there, and move into a world without all this bullshit, without all these massive lies that we live in. And obviously, living through the last couple years, anybody that's has a heartbeat, that has still a thinking mind, has to come to the conclusion that governments as a whole are working in unison to lie to us. Okay, and it doesn't stop at COVID, and this is just the next layer. This is just the next layer of control. But one of the largest ways that the governments have controlled us for the last few generations is through the idea of the space program and NASA, and look at the other countries' space programs. They are ridiculous. I mean, you got to see China's space program. Do you know that China has their own space station now? There's no photographs of it being constructed. Either is there photographs of the ISS. There's not one photograph of the greatest feat of mankind to create this space capsule traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, 250 miles above above us, and there's not one photograph or video of it being constructed. One other thing to consider is that there's no video ever of anyone doing a 360-degree pan of spinning around and showing like on a spacewalk, where they call it an EVA, an extra vehicular activity. To, got to be fancy with their words. So to do a full 360 of spinning around, showing the Earth, and coming back to the ISS, there's never been a video of putting a camera on an astronaut from the airlock and letting the air out, and then opening the capsule and breaching out to the outer space. Can you imagine how that has to be probably the greatest feat? That would be something I would love to see. Everyone would love to see, because that's the next frontier, or going into the greatest adventure of going from a man-made structure of artificial air contained, and opening that door into the abyss, right? And going out through that capsule door into the nothingness of outer space. And it's never been filmed. That has to be a clue. It's not definitive proof, but it has to be a pretty big clue. Like, there's no videos, and there's a lot of things you could pick apart the ISS. But anyways, I don't want to ramble, but I hope I had a bit of a cohesive thought here. The idea was to just consider the implications of the space program, and that means worldwide, not just NASA, and how they've been faked. Not only faked, but it's a criminal organization. It started out as a criminal organization, and what that has done to affect the minds of the populations of everyone on the planet, or I should say plane. Just consider that the implications of how deep that goes, and your understanding of every day, where we are, what is the cosmos, right? So talking about the composition of the Earth is another discussion, but I can 100% guarantee you that if you look into it, you're not going to think it's very stupid for very long, because I went through it myself. So the lies are piled on top of lies, and it's very, very easy to find the truth. The truth is very attainable. Finding an accurate understanding of all of this is very attainable. Don't let anybody tell you that you're never going to know. Don't ever get that in your mind, like we'll never figure it out. Or especially the other one is well, what does it matter? I still got to get up and go to work. It's really a self-defeating defense mechanism, because people don't want to think about it. People don't want to consider what it is. People don't want to because it does. Well, it might hurt a little bit, to accept it, and accept that you've been lied to on a massive scale, and that your understandings are incorrect in a lot of ways. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I think you should do it. I did it, and I think it's the most important for our children, so that the next generation moves into a better world full of more truth. We're always going to have issues. We're always going to have challenges, but having a pretty good grasp of what the Earth and what outer space and where we really are and what this really is the most important. And I guess in closing, through this whole journey, for me, I kept finding the evil in the world, and I kept, through all of these different types of conspiracies that you're going to uncover, and you're going to find a lot of evil in the world, and you're going to find that a lot of these people are Luciferian, and that there's a lot of sun worship, and that's what the heliocentric model is really based on, is sun worship and Luciferian ideals, and it's something that it's going to shock you, and then you need to stop and consider and open your mind that God is real, Jesus Christ is real, and that is the most important thing. And when you go through this process, you're going to find that this earth and what we know of it is so much more precious and so much more beautiful and precise, and it was created for us, and that God created it for us, and we need to pay respect for His creation, and that's another really important thing, is to pay respect to the truth of what this is and how it was created, and I encourage you to think about that, and I encourage you to for me and for thousands of people that I see these testimonies of these types of journeys that people take, just like I did, and so many of them come to Jesus Christ and God, or back to. For me, it was back to Him, but I don't want to get too far in depth with that, other than just putting that out there, because it is ultimately the most important, and He is ultimately the one that is created all this, and we should pay respect to Him, and I'll leave it there. So love you, hope to talk soon.